Okay. So we have our final interview now, and um, Nina's been on the show before, Nina Fox. She has Jennings on there. She's gonna tell us maybe why it says Nina Jennings. But that might be her legal name, and Nina Fox is her pen name, I think. But anyway, Nina, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm fixing it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so you have a new project, and I saw it online when you were advertising it, and I said this is would be a great time to have Nina back on the show because we like to have authors on the show who are doing other kinds of things. And there's a play called Rarefied Air that is, I think, the first week of the
Next,
play being shown is next week. It starts next week, I think. But anyway, tell us about your role with
so
Rarefied Air.
I wrote Rarefied Air during the pandemic. So you know that the time, remember with us, we couldn't go nowhere. We were all
Right.
locked down. And it's the first play that I wrote. I've done other plays before, but they were books that I rewrote for the stage. I wrote this straight to place. First thing that I wrote that way. And it is the story of a family that's been locked, Black family locked down in Seattle, Washington. Mom, dad, and the daughter. And they are trying to figure it out, like we were trying to figure it out. They're, it's weird to be talking about this now, 5 years later, and it feels almost like we're back at the same place. But I don't people that are familiar with my work, it is different than that. It's different. It's not the funny book. It's not any of that. And the family, the couple, they've done all the things that they tell you you're supposed to do when you go to school and you get the degrees and you get the big fancy job and then you're supposed to have the American dream. And all of a sudden, not only are we locked down, but then they watch George Floyd be murdered on television.
Right.
And that is making them feel some kind of way. And they're navigating that with, having teenage children. Well, in the play, it's just a daughter who is doing all the things that we were doing, like, oh, Black people can't get it, or it's the 5G, it's all of these things with the coronavirus, and then losing everything that you're losing. She's at a milestone place in her life. She's graduated from high school, and all of the rites of passage that they've had as graduated from high school, the daughter's lost it. So there's no prom, there's no graduation, there's none of the hanging out, there's none of the requisite getting in trouble as a senior so that you can, sow your wild oats before you go off to college. And she wants to do something when she watches George Floyd get killed, but you can't go out there because there's a mysterious thing in the air that's going to kill you or that will get you. And dealing with that and trying to really reevaluate all of the things that were told to be true. So that's what the story's about. And my hope is that when I was writing it, I was really in my feelings because I was seeing all these things. I was a mother of teenagers. I actually had one child graduated from high school and one child graduated from college that year. And so seeing all the things and then listening to our other children who had already graduated and the things they wanted to do, because this being a Gen Xer, I had parents who lived through the civil rights movement, as did the characters in this play. And so there were things that we were taught. Things like you have to be better, and that's going to make you be seen as equal. And if you do all these things, then you'll be seen as equal and be great. And then you go to integrated schools, and these people will see you as equal and friends. And then all of a sudden, boom, you see these people killed in front of you on television, and like that's not supposed to happen. And
It was
then
such a pivotal year that year.
was a pivotal year, and then you see children
It
who
was.
your children have never experienced that.
Mhm.
All the things that your parents told you, you didn't tell them to a certain extent because it was supposed to be that white picket fence and all of the things that the American dream was supposed to be then. And you didn't bother to teach your kids that, and they want to know why you're not doing anything. And because I think there's a whole generation that was taught doing something means following all of those rules that those other people have set for you, and you follow those rules, and nothing has changed. So I think it'll make people who go to see it, um, well, I think it'll make you feel something because 4 years later or 8 years later, 5 years later, here we are, the same place. 45 was coming into his office then, and he's back again. And what's changed? And you're like, well, I don't know, maybe it's worse. So I think it'll be interesting. And then parents will think about things as well because of what your kids did or did not get to do or lost or how, the things they have to live through. And I think it'll make there'll be a lot of talk. And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted, you know. So
Okay. So what made you say now's the time to put this on
so I
not Broadway, but let's say off Broadway?
so I did not say that at all. So it's
You
a
did
regional
okay, you did. Okay.
Wow.
All
the
right.
State Theater, which is where it is in Baltimore, is a regional theater, and its mission is promoting works by women of color. The person who, I don't know, 3 years ago, right, we still went the first, it was in the Seattle Public Theater Summer Festival. And I don't remember what year it was, but we were still wearing masks in the theater. So it must have been like 23. And the woman that produced it then, theater company was a nonprofit that was again promoted. They were committed on the West Coast to promoting works or developing works by women of color. So we did it. It was not a full production. Instead, it was a stage reading. Very, very talented actors. We had a lot of conversation. I think the mayor of Seattle came. Um, and, because there's some things that happened in Seattle that were on the West Coast that were kind of like, they took over a whole neighborhood and shut down the precinct and wouldn't allow any law enforcement in. And like, it was like
I
a big,
remember that. Hmm.
and that was like kind of for our kids, kind of they'd only read about such protests in history books, right? And so it was in that show, and the woman who was running that theater company shut down her theater company and moved to the West Coast, moved to the East Coast. She moved to DC, and
Okay.
she became involved with the Strand, and they were looking for things. And this is how it happens in theater, right? You submit your stuff or not. So I didn't officially submit it. She said to me, "We need something to headline our series," and I let the director read your work, and we really want to do it. That is literally how it happened. And the next thing I knew, I had a contract that to do this. So I'm not doing anything. I'm showing up as the writer, and I'm talking about my motivations, which is kind of hard for me because I have control issues, but it's because it qualifies as a world premiere. It makes it eligible for a lot of things, so I'm grateful for that. And I think I'm still humbled and flattered because when the things that people say about you when you're not in the room are really important. And this woman, the work stayed with her. And
Okay.
it stayed with her. She is a Black woman, but she does not have children. But she lived through it just like we did, and she thought it was important. And I was like, oh, should I change the setting and make it DC because that's where, the area is? She's like, no, I think everyone will be able to relate to it. It's just how it is. And so the end of last year, they hired the actors that they were going to use, and it's a totally different market, totally in terms of people. Although Seattle is the West Coast, and you do get a lot of actors that come out of LA, and a lot of them are professional actors. These people are phenomenal. Like I flew in, she asked me to come in for a reading once they hired them, so the actors so that I could talk to them they could ask me questions about what I was feeling. I left the place with chills. I mean, because the level of talent, even just sitting and reading at a table was amazing. And then it had some time had obviously passed and there's some rewrites had happened. And I was like, oh, wow, I do remember this. And I felt like that again, hearing them read what I wrote and then talking to them about what I was feeling and why I wrote it this way. And it's interesting because, the characters are Black people. And you sometimes we forget that we're not a monolith, and explaining to
Hmm.
the people, the black men, why my character said that and how it came from was really interesting and good. And then the young woman that is playing the daughter is amazingly talented. She's actually a student, and it's a bit of a challenge because the main that person, it's really about her journey through this whole thing, and um she's a dancer. Now, it's one thing to say, I have a daughter who's a dancer. She's graduated from college. She's a professional dancer. Yay, yay me. I'm very very proud of her. But to see this young woman take this piece and do what she had to do, and it's I think it's really hard sometimes to find, you find actors who dance and dancers who act. This woman is a dancer, actor, everything all around. There's nothing missing in her performance. I think her movement has to convey the anger that and frustration that she's feeling. And I'm excited. The director is out of DC, and she was also a choreographer for Alvin Ailey. So
Nice.
Oh, wow.
I have not seen the set yet. I will see the set on opening night like everybody else.
I'm
So
excited for you.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm
it's in your
excited.
neck of the woods, Rhonda.
I know.
You might
But
be able to go
I was
see it.
just going to say the play is going to be March 14th through the 30th.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to take that long trip into Baltimore from Akakeek, and I'm gonna come support you.
Well, I'm actually going to be there opening weekend. I think opening weekend is sold out, which I'm shocked and amazed for that. But
That's wonderful.
That is
Congratulations.
thank
great.
you. A lot of people, I was so surprised. So many people are traveling to see it from like others. I was like, wow, that
Hmm.
makes me feel very honored. But that Strand also has a lot of support, and then they're known in the area for this type of thing.
Hmm.
A lot
Hmm.
of universities are supporting it. People who've, had universities in the area that has sent faculty to my retreats. And so supporting it, and different organizations that I belong to are supporting it. And so if you don't get to go opening weekend, please support the theater. It is a nonprofit.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I'm gonna come see you. And like I said, I wasn't playing. It is a long trip. I don't know if you're familiar with Akakeek, but it's like on the other side of Waldorf.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so it's gonna take me about an hour and a half to get there, depending on traffic. But I want to make sure that I come see you because I've turned two of my books into stage plays,
Mhm.
and I know I appreciate the work that goes into that. And there's nothing like seeing people who will take a story and bring it to life.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
so I'm excited for you, and just the level that you are releasing this stage play, it deserves all of the support that it's getting. So I congratulate you.
Thank you. It's interesting because I also did the same. I had two of my books that I turned into stage plays, and like I said, the control, because it's a lot when you look up and you realize that you have all of these people working for you. It's not just the five characters.
Right, right.
But she had to tell me, we just need you to be the writer because
Okay.
I'm doing everything. So it's kind of an interesting step back, but it's good. It's really good to see, for me to learn from everybody else, because who knows, I may do it again, but now I will have learned from some things from them that I think are, it's invaluable. So
So is it going to tour or is it going to other
it
cities?
has a 2.5 week, week run there. And so it's not necessarily a touring play. It's like a traditional regional theater play where it'll be there. And then, so the next thing that would have to happen is other theater companies would license it as well. No, I am now out of Atlanta. I'm not out of Seattle anymore. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I was saying to someone the other day,
I didn't know that.
yeah, I would
See,
love,
I'm thinking you were on specific time.
no,
That's what
it's bedtime. I had to go
I
put
know.
on.
That's why I booked you at the end because I said, well, Nina's on the West Coast, so it'll be 6:30.
The next thing was other theaters would have to license it. So my agent will be submitting to different places to, because there's always that imposter syndrome. Like this is the first thing I wrote directly for stage. And as a coach, I talk to people about imposter syndrome all the time, but that doesn't mean I'm exempt. Um, the first thing, like I know how to write a book. That's not a problem. I know how to write a story, but then this is totally different. And
Right.
these people went to school for dramatic writing and did all the things. Yeah, I have MFA, but it's not dramatic writing. But I've come to, yeah, I've arrived at, yes, this is what should happen now. But it took a long time. It took 4 years for me to arrive there. So I'm really going to work on getting it submitted other places. And then it's so funny. My daughter, she says, "How could you do this?" And I'm not in it. Somebody else play me. I'm like, the character is not you. She has no. This is a discussion we had 10 minutes ago. So she's like, so she's very funny because I mean, she graduated from college since I first wrote this, and I wrote it when she was in high school. So
Okay.
that's the cycle. So now she's like, oh no, I'm an actor. Done so. Why am I not in this, mother? So it's kind of
My
funny.
daughter would tell me the same thing. I had to put her in my second stage play. She has a degree in act in theater as well. So she's if I did a play and didn't even just think about asking her to be in it,
So
it would be in the front.
we have a lot to talk about because I'm at the same place. She looks very young, so she could definitely play this person who's a high school senior again. So I'm like, I gotta have this done again just so my child can be cast in it because
Right, right.
Well, Atlanta would be a great place to do it.
I think so. I mean, moving for me, it was like coming home because I'm from the East Coast, so everybody went to college in the 80s and 90s, moved to Atlanta anyway. So I felt like, so
Hmm.
I know a lot of people, everybody went to college in the 80s and 90s on the East Coast, moved to Atlanta. So
Uh,
Yeah, I remember that. Everybody thought they had to go to Atlanta.
yeah, because we wanted to be in Chocolate City, and I ended up here anyway. That's another story. That's so I felt like coming home. So I think that it would be well received here.
mhm. I would think we have probably more than one venue option.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. So
well,
some
Atlanta, have you experienced the Atlanta Black Theater Festival?
not yet. So I just moved here when I moved into my house
Okay.
before Thanksgiving. So
Oh,
we
wow. Okay.
Oh, okay.
and I've thought of entering this before, the National Black Theater Festival, but you need a film. So I'm counting on the video for
Oh,
this to enter. So I'm actually absolutely it's on my radar to do that because it'd be perfect. Well, it'd be perfect because you don't have a lot of characters, and the more characters you add to a story, it adds more money, and the bigger your production gets. So I think it's something that would be great. It would travel well to the festival, and again, timely to spark a lot of dialogue in our community and outside our community about the things we need to be talking about now.
okay. So the name Rarefied Air, that's how,
It
what
comes
made
from
you come up with that name?
it
I,
comes
I know
from
I've heard that before somewhere else.
it comes from a discussion that the husband and wife have. So these people are, so we call them like the new age, I would say like the new age Huxtables. So when you remember in that show, the Cosby Show, the Huxtables were like, he was a doctor, she was a lawyer. And
Hmm.
that was like, that gave you certain privileges. So my husband and I talk all the time that the new age Huxtables are not those people, although that's a nice combination. They're tech people. So like we're with husband and wife both work in tech and they come from the beginnings like all the rest of us born around the same time where your family may have moved to the north or the Midwest, but you still went south in the summer and you still had these rules about the way you were going to be. Um, and if you did these things, you would attain certain things and you may have attained it. Like we all have multiple letters behind our names. Like we all do. I'm looking at, we all have multiple letters behind our names. We all have certain jobs that provide us certain luxuries and things we think we know are true. And some of us drink that Kool-Aid more than others, right? And then those things, like the pandemic, snatched some of those things away. Like you can't have a spa day anymore. You got used to your spa day monthly. You can't have that. Like, and you're worried about how am I going to stay fit when I can't go to the gym? And other people are worried about how they're going to eat because they're
Right.
um they're essential workers or they're not essential workers and they can't work. because their jobs aren't paying them when they don't work. Where your job, you just switch to work at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
The husband is, I think, is a little bit more grounded than the wife. And he says, well, excuse me, if I don't breathe, if not everyone breathes your rarefied air, meaning, you putting on airs and everybody out here is worrying about they're going to eat. And so that became the name. The characters said it to each other, and I was like, that's the name of the play. So,
Okay. This is a great name.
yeah.
Very
So,
Hmm.
memorable,
I
catchy.
like the thought behind the name.
Yeah.
because we all know that, and we've all have to, most of us have had to check ourselves to say, "Hmm, come on now." Like, I mean, even now, there are people I know in our circle who are worried about how their house is going to get clean because people have been picked up by ICE to deport it. How to pull, and you're like, really? How's your house going to get clean? Because every Saturday morning you clean your toilets yourself. Now, just because you're six now does not mean that the toilets can't get clean. That is kind of that's why I say it's like a timely thing with thinking about those same things, but for different reasons now. And in the play, and when you come see it, the young woman is her best friend, and the mother cleans houses, and no one has heard from them. And kids are like, I can't, she's not texting. Well, she's not texting because her phone is called off, phone turned off because her mother can't clean any houses and has no money because everything's shut down. So it's kind of
Mm.
that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So
So you kept the theme of the COVID. It's still central to the play, or
but the family is, it's like what happens when you're alone with yourself, right? The family's
okay.
locked down during COVID, and that's what it is. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, eh, some of us kept some of those lockdown ways. Like I loved being remote. Like I loved not going to the office. And like my other daughter graduated during the pandemic and is complaining sometimes that, oh, I can't take that job. They go to the office every day. I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, okay. My daughter was she had a job in oil and gas and got laid off in November. They were hybrid. And it's stressful. And I know Rhonda, you're on the freeway driving to work constantly.
Don't tell them people where I work.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, I'm just saying you have to be in your
Yeah.
car
Yeah, I do.
and you have a
Um,
distance that you have to drive in traffic.
yeah, and it is disheartening because sometimes it takes you a long time, maybe like an hour and a half to get to work, depending on where you live.
Yeah. And so she wanted her dream job when she got a new job was to have one that was totally remote.
well, a lot
And
of people.
and so the first job that she thought she had, she went through 3 interviews. It was totally remote. She didn't get it. Somebody else got it. And then she was up for some other jobs that were hybrid. And I think one was all in the office, and that was like only if I'm forced to. Like, but she ended up getting a job where she's fully remote. The whole company is remote, so it's based in New York. It's an accounting firm. She's an accountant, but people are from all over remote. The whole
You
thing.
know, the interesting thing about that is when you think about, I think that this is why I kept the story needed to stay because the pandemic, aside from the thing that these family lost, the changes we had to make, it made us rethink the things that we think about how we live, including work. Um,
Right.
one of the things for me is not being able to see my family for 2 years, living so far west, 13 hours round trip from everybody on the East Coast. And it was like, when I finally saw them, I was like, is this worth it? And so like during the pandemic, I had an extra 2 hours a day because I was not commuting to an office. That's how this play was born. But it makes you rethink your values. And I wanted to take people from that process of rethinking their values again. Because some of that we definitely need to keep. And I actually built the acts around the stages of grief, the 5-stage grief model. And so the family is fighting and they're grieving for the way of life that they thought they had. So,
And that they thought couldn't be replaced.
oh yeah,
The world that we live in now, where so many things or so many jobs are hybrid or fully remote, was not the world we were in before the pandemic.
no. And
And so we didn't even know that this was possible.
Right.
and that
Like
it could still function,
I
things
work remote part of the time, or you can work remote. I'm going to work from home today. But I think it's interesting because a lot of companies are struggling to catch up because they have all these investments in real estate and all these other things. It's like, how do you make it mesh? And also, I think like the economy is doing weird things right now, especially in my world in tech. But it's like we used to be, oh, give me a job. Now it's like, why should I work for you? Like they both need to come together. And I think, companies and people, the workers have to find a medium point. And I don't think we're settled yet.
I think it's still
Well,
in flux to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And with AI, who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? I think it's interesting because I think we see a lot of people making different choices. Like I'm just not going to do that. And I'm going to find an alternative way, which isn't necessarily bad because we have, like I said, that whole generation we're taught to do these things and then you'll get X. And then now we're saying, well, maybe I don't want that.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Well, I am so excited for you with your project. It's not new, but it's new to us.
well,
And so,
it's new in the lifestyle of a play. It's new. I mean, it takes this long and it's totally different than when you produce it yourself.
right.
You gotta learn, you know, it's sort of like taking a book deal with a major publisher versus self-publishing. Today
mhm,
both have merits, but they have different timelines, and that's okay.
right. And so, we want people to know that as an author, there are many, many, many options
Absolutely.
for expanding your creative horizons. And they don't all have to be books. They don't all have to be limited to a book.
Nope, they don't. They don't. But like the play is March 14th through the 30th, the Strand Theater in Baltimore City. You can, find out about it by going to the strand-theater.org or, just go to ninafox.com and
Well,
there's all,
the cool part, Nina, is that when you go to the Strand website, the first thing you see is rarefied air.
yeah, the headlines there. And so I feel good about that. That's good.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's great. So wonderful. Okay, well, thank you again. I didn't know you had relocated, so that's new information too. So I hope you've settled in and everything's going well.
We're getting there. We're getting there. See this lovely house behind me? That's
I know you do all your own stuff, with backgrounds. So I know that's the case, but I'm sure it'll work out. I'm just so excited. I wish I could come to the play. If it tours further south, like south, let me know.
yeah, I will definitely do that. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. You have a great night and best wishes on a wonderful opening weekend. And I'll be there on the 16th because there's still tickets available that day.
That's Sunday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.